Kaiser Adolf Hitler the Hohenzollern and Prince Sebastian Habsburg, the official monarch and consort of my Hohenzollern constitutional monarchy of Germany in 1943. My maternal, Hitler the Hohenzollern Imperial Family and paternal Habsburg, Webb, family great-grandfathers, Kaiser Adolf I and Prince Sebastian, were officially Imperial Hohenzollern monarch and consort starting 1943, after becoming partners and lovers. Living together. Publicly dating. In a homosexual relationship. Photographed together. Photographed each other. Imperial family head with partner and lover. Front page news in Germany. Kaiser Adolf officially registered the relationship with authorization documents verified and approved by the Supreme Court of Germany in 1943. Prince Sebastian was the only legitimate son of the last emperor of the Habsburg monarchy of Österreich-Ungarn, now known as Austria and Hungary, Franz Joseph I. Prince Sebastian was the final prince of my Habsburg royal family. Sebastian was a close relative of German President Paul von Hindenburg, who died in 1934. Sebastian was amazingly similar in looks to von Hindenburg, with a Franz Joseph I twist and around 30 years younger. Franz Joseph I was very mildly intellectually impaired and very pleasant company to have around, apparently. The connection between me and Franz Joseph I through my great-grandfather Sebastian is an all-Webb family thing, legitimate all the way through. Obviously, the monarchy Franz Joseph I was emperor of was dissolved as the constitutional monarchy of Austria and Hungary in 1922, leaving only the residual titles that apply to me. Duke and Lord, Duchess and Lady for females. The downgrading of the royal family, which retained the entire private Habsburg family estate, was caused by the abduction, torture, and murder of successor to be Charles, then Emperor Franz Joseph I in 1916. The crimes were perpetrated by lunatics involved with heinously evil fake physicist Albert Einstein, including the Black Hand. Einstein was Wilhelm II and Adolf's ineligible biological cousin, via one parent. Via the other parent he was related to lunatic South Americans from French Guiana, who murdered all but one French royal family member in France in the 1790s. It left only Napoleon, who became emperor months after the murders, in an official coronation. Legitimate Habsburg royal family members are all legitimately descended from monarch of France Louis XIV, making all, including me, eligible to be a viscount or viscountess if female of France. I look very similar to Louis XIV in some very obvious ways. Einstein and his terrorism associates targeted my Habsburg royal family during World War I because of that small biologically related fact. Lunatics pretended they were trying to get the murderers of the French royals in the 1790s recognized as if temporarily the royal family of France by violent murder and unofficial takeover, until the only eligible remaining royal Napoleon did the same and took it back, during the 1800s. The perpetrators from French Guiana illegally used the royal properties the murders were committed in for a couple of weeks after the murders, approximately. Wearing the victims' clothing and jewelry, using the furniture, and eating the food and drink, etc. Whilst the royal victims' bodies were still strewn on the floors. The murderers never actually insanely declared themselves the new royal family. They just had what they described as a fancy dress party after the murders were committed. A fictional story was added to the facts of the crimes. An attempt to make it appear the French Guiana lunatic stole the French royal family and then eligible Napoleon stole it back the same way when the murderers were executed. Napoleon was not present when the perpetrators were executed immediately, outside of lawful procedure, by an army battalion that discovered them and the scene of their crimes. Forget everything you have seen or read that depicts Napoleon holding the French crown on one of the perpetrators' heads whilst it was lopped off and then putting it on his own head and declaring himself emperor. With a less comical, but a la Mr. Burns off The Simpsons saying, "Look at me, everybody. I'm Davy Crockett" statement. Complete rubbish. Napoleon was coronated months later in a private official coronation. It is one of the vilest and disgustingly frustrating ongoing stupidities on earth. The lunatic campaign for descendants and family of the French Guiana lunatics to be allowed to use vacant French royal properties with a taxpayer-funded allowance that began in the 1800s is completely pointless and extremely offensive. When it rightfully had not resulted in any supportive response in France by World War I, they targeted my Habsburg family for being related, via Louis XIV. Decided to try stealing the Habsburg estate instead, as if the next best thing to use in French properties, like Versailles. They still riot in France around once a month, usually pretending to campaign for something the French people would like as well as a side motive, marketed as a bonus for the public if they get their way, which they can never get. Like free parking in Paris, or more money for the unemployed. They pretend if they get to move into a property, like Versailles, they'll introduce free parking in Paris with a wand or something, as if able to reward the people involved in the riots. As if a nice popularist gesture they will follow through on. For what it is worth, I would not be the first eligible to become monarch of Austria and Hungary if the monarchy still existed. A cousin of mine would be ahead of me on my generational level. These facts do not make me a conspiracy though. My great-grandfather Kaiser Adolf I did not know I was his consort from 1943's great-grandson when I was born, or when he made me crown prince and sole beneficiary of 3 estates. Kaiser Adolf became aware of it after asking me who my great-grandmother was in 1975. He immediately had a heart attack that hospitalized him. At the same time I was in hospital in Australia due to an attempt to kill me by a female pretending to be my mother. It was the same year my grandfather Ioseb Stalin Djugashvili the Romanov got a hair sample from me to DNA test to see if I was his only legitimate grandchild. Which I am. Kaiser Adolf had a few heart attacks before I was born. My two great-grandpas were partnered up and living together in one of Kaiser Adolf's personal imperial residences in 1943. There are many photos of them together, including at public imperial or political events where they were not allowed to touch each other. German law at that time prohibited public shows of sexual affection between same-gender sexual partners, but nothing else regarding natural same-gender sex. Kaiser Adolf I was constantly told if he so much as brushed shoulders or touched a man he was partnered with or dating in public, they would stop everything, tackle them, and arrest them both, immediately. At gunpoint if necessary. He always had a slightly unhappy or tense look on his face in photographs as a result. Sometimes security made like they were reaching for their guns when he looked like he may brush shoulders with his gay date. It is a very familiar look on his face, to me. Publicly available images that appear in internet search results have my Scottish citizen great-grandfather Sebastian incorrectly listed as Paul von Hindenburg, who died aged 86 in 1934. Von Hindenburg and Sebastian looked remarkably similar because they were closely related. All the photographs of my Webb family great-grandfather Sebastian after he became Kaiser Adolf I's consort were taken after 1942. Sebastian was in his 60s in 1943. All photos of my Webb family great-grandfather Sebastian with my other imperial great-grandfather were taken years after Kaiser Adolf I was coronated in January 1940. All photographs of then Prince Imperial Adolf with von Hindenburg were taken before von Hindenburg's death in 1934, when Adolf had only been Chancellor for a year or so. Because of the hideous fictionalized pretend alternate reality that was created around my great-grandfather Kaiser Adolf I after he was abducted in 1943, particularly for television in the 1950s, photographs of my Webb family great-grandfather Sebastian only appear in internet searches if the search is for his look-alike relative Paul von Hindenburg, by name. A lot of the photos have been altered to attempt to make the two look like the same person. The idea all photographs of Sebastian with Adolf I after 1942 are von Hindenburg is ridiculous and completely impossible. Some of the photos are very personal and distressing to look at. Neo Natzis held Prince Sebastian prisoner in Berlin in 1944, in the public foyer of the building he was living in with Kaiser Adolf in an upstairs apartment. He separated from Kaiser Adolf to visit family in Scotland in November 1943, and when he returned in late January 1944, Kaiser Adolf was already prisoner of war in Yugoslavia. Berlin was almost completely deserted. Sebastian's physical condition seriously deteriorated whilst held prisoner in the building's public reception area. They took multiple photos of him every day with a press camera, offering him no food. They then dumped him in Dachau prison, to be tortured by inmates who had escaped the jail in December 1943, then taken over running the jail when it was illegally filled with homosexuals illegally abducted from the German public by the Neo Nazis. Sebastian was found in Dachau in June 1945, when Allied troops took the jail from the escaped life without parole inmates who were pretending to run it. He was interviewed, along with Hermann Göring, who was also found in the prison, and had been since illegally held in it since December 1943. Sebastian's information was used in the Nuremberg trials in November 1945, where escaped jail inmate Ricky O'Shea was tried for pretending to run the jail until June 1945. People now pretend O'Shea was going on trial. Even though Going was never employed in any way to do with the jail system in Germany at all. When Kaiser Adolf escaped prisoner of war jail in late 1959, Prince Sebastian was terminally ill in palliative care in Austria. Italian authorities reunited the two in the palliative care hospital in 1960. They had ulterior motives for it, the nasty type. They took hidden cameras and listening devices with them. What the Italians didn't know was that Australian lunatics had hidden film cameras, still cameras, and listening devices in the room Sebastian was in palliative care in at the time. My father Kevin Webb had married for the first time and only time in May 1958. His new wife was pregnant by the end of June that year with what would have been an eligible future Habsburg Duke and Lord or Duchess and Lady. Provided the child was registered at birth it went home in my parents' custody. It was automatic under residual law, remnants of the constitutional monarchy in Austria and Hungary. They were pretending Sebastian was going to be sent a letter, birth certificate, and photograph of my father Kevin Webb's firstborn child with his new wife Judith. As if one had to be sent to Sebastian via my grandfather Duke and Lord James Webb the Habsburg, asking for my father Kevin's firstborn legitimate child to be authorized as a royal Habsburg by Prince Sebastian. They swapped my mother for an impostor who looked almost exactly like her, called Pauline, who was pregnant with the granddaughter of Ricky O'Shea, the escaped prison inmate who tortured Prince Sebastian in Dachau prison in 1944 and 1945 and was tried at Nuremberg after WW2. They pretend he was Hermann Göring on trial, these days, on fictional history media. The Australian lunatics thought they would get video and audio recordings of Prince Sebastian excitedly reading a request letter from his son Duke and Lord James about his son Kevin's first legitimate child. That Sebastian would be really excited, read the details, look at the attached birth certificate, and then take a look at the baby photo. They thought they would get close-ups of Sebastian when he saw a photo of a child that obviously wasn't a Habsburg, didn't look like one, and looked like the man who tortured him in Dachau prison in 1944 and 1945 instead. O'Shea's granddaughter. As if he would shatter completely or die on the spot, sob himself to sleep, something horridly hideous. A letter wasn't required at all. The Australian lunatics made the idea up themselves. Then lost the plot thinking about getting audio and video of Sebastian reading it so they could see the change of state of his face when he saw O'Shea's granddaughter instead of the new royal Habsburg child. The Australian lunatics thought it was super brilliant by them. Criminal genius. They waited from the birth of the imposter wife's child in March 1959 through the rest of the year into 1960 for Whist Sebastian got the letter in palliative care. The letter that never existed. Filming and recording him every day as if waiting for it to arrive. Instead, they got graphic, invasive, personal, and illegally recorded video, photos, and audio of Prince Sebastian being reunited with Kaiser Adolf Hitler the Hohenzollern for the first time since November 1943. They recorded them being reunited and then them sitting quietly and talking together for 6 days. Prince Sebastian then died with Kaiser Adolf sitting next to him. They probably have every photo and every minute of film and audio still. They kept recording until after the rooms Prince Sebastian was using in palliative care were cleared and cleaned, ready for use by someone else. Including footage and film of him dead in the room. If you are aware of any talk of stealing off me with a torture extortion plot, they pretend I'll be forced to play along with on my deathbed, that is the lunatic's excuse for reasoning for it. Them trying to record the letter arriving in 1959, that wasn't required, and then getting recordings of Kaiser Adolf being with Prince Sebastian when he died instead. Including clear audio of them talking with each other every day, recorded with a listening device hidden under Sebastian's bed. In most cases, Kaiser Adolf speaking quietly wasn't clearly recorded well, only Prince Sebastian's voice was. Whilst they were waiting for the fictional letter that wasn't required, they begged Austria and Hungary to illegally withhold the Habsburg estate from the royal family beneficiaries in Australia when he died. My Webb family in Australia, who inherited the entire Habsburg royal estate from Prince Sebastian. Prince Sebastian had left a written request in his estate notes, requesting all eligible Habsburg royals move into the main Habsburg palace in Vienna when he died and live together for a year afterwards. Then split up into individual properties inherited in the estate if they wanted to stay in Austria and Hungary and live there. That included my dad Kevin and his new wife Judith, via my grandfather Duke and Lord James. The lunatics had been pretending my father Kevin had his bags packed to move to Vienna for a few years before his grandfather Prince Sebastian died. As if he was looking forward to his death and getting to move to Vienna. Then that it was the only reason he got married. Then that he was desperately trying to have an eligible Habsburg baby before Prince Sebastian died and it was the only reason he got married. Despite the fact there was already around 10 eligible Habsburg great-grandchildren of Prince Sebastian before my dad got married. And they claimed they criminal genius brilliantly robbed him of the child, but got recordings of Prince Sebastian dying with Kaiser Adolf with him instead of what they wanted. They wanted Prince Sebastian reading the fictitious letter that was not required and images of him seeing the photo of Ashay's granddaughter. The Habsburg royal family estate has been illegally withheld from my Webb family since 1960. Their teasing of me that I quote, could have been born in the main palace in Vienna or one of the other palaces doesn't register properly with them. The main reason is I inherited the Hohenzollern royal family estate via abdication in December 1977 when I was about to turn 6. Too many palaces, not enough brains.